Hi everyone, bonjour. And today we are going to be talking about conversation. And we are going to get started on having conversations. At the end of this lesson, you will be having a conversation like I promised. But before that, we need to work on the building blocks, on the basics of having a conversation and meeting people and introducing yourself, how to say your name, how to present yourself, how do you say hello, all of that wonderful stuff. So, we're going to do the basics today and get into that conversation later. So, are you ready? I am too. All right. So, mm, all right. So, let's start by saying hello. How do you say hello en français? It is the famous bonjour. Bonjour. What does this mean? Well, bon is actually good, and jour is the word for day. So the literal translation is like bonjour. And one thing to note is the word bon, like I said, with question and non and avion, all these words that we've looked at in the previous lesson, they have an N that is kind of nasally and is not really the N like N. It is on, bon. We will be looking at this later on, but I just wanted to draw your attention. Another note I wanted to say is that there are many ways to say hello, and I will be covering this later on, but for now, bonjour will work. I really like it as well because bonjour is applicable to formal and informal conversations. You can say it most times of the day, and it's very standard and just an amazing word. Bonjour. Right? Next we have how are you? You want to know how people are, even if you don't really want to know, right? So how are you is kind of like a conversational fundamental that we always say. Now, how do we say this in French? We can say this by comment ça va and ça va. So comment means how. Comment ça va means how does it go? How is it going? You can also say ça va when asking a question. So it could either be comment ça va or ça va. Now, it's very important here if you're saying ça va that you need to have a rising intonation because if you just say ça va, it means that things are going well, right? So you want to say ça va with a rising intonation. Now, how do we respond to this question? Here are some of the beautiful responses that you can possibly have. And I'm going to go through all of them. Now, repeat after me. Ça va. Ça va bien. Ça va très bien. Ça va très bien. Merci. Yeah. So these are all sort of variations of one another, and they're all saying really the same thing with different ornaments, I would say. Now, here's what I meant by ça va as a question and answer. Ça va by itself means things are going, like things are going well, things are going. And if you say in a question, you have to absolutely change the tone, right? So, bien means well. So, ça va bien, things are going well. Ça va très bien. Très means very. Ça va très bien, okay? Ça va très bien. And you can even pop a merci after to make it sound just full and you want to show off merci. It's a very nice thing to say. Okay. And of course, with this, you want to know how they are, right? So someone asks you, comment ça va? And you say ça va, and you end the conversation. It's not very good. So you want to ask them as well, how are you doing? And how do we say that? We say, repeat after me. Et toi? Et toi? So et is the word for and. You're going to be using this word many times. Okay. Et. Remember, the T is not like the standard T that we're used to. It's sort of silent. Et. And then toi is you. Et toi. And again, you want to have that rising intonation, that rising tone. Et toi? Right? All right. Now, we want to introduce ourselves. You want to present yourself and your name. So this in French is, repeat after me, je m'appelle. Je m'appelle. Je m'appelle Nick. Je m'appelle Nick. My name is Nick. And you? Your name is, tu t'appelles. Tu t'appelles. His name. Okay, so il s'appelle. Il s'appelle. Il is he in French. Her name is. Elle s'appelle. Elle s'appelle. All right. And how do you ask someone, what is your name? Repeat after me. Comment tu t'appelles? Comment tu t'appelles? Of course, we're going to do it with a rising tone. Comment tu t'appelles? Comment tu t'appelles? So this comment, the T is silent and the en part is something called a nasal vowel, which we will learn in a few minutes in the next lesson. And that red part is showing that nasal vowel. Okay, so I would love for you to translate the following from what you just learned. How do you say, what is his name? Okay, what about, what is her name? All right, pause the video if you need to, but if you're good, this is the answer. Comment il s'appelle? Comment il s'appelle? And then we also have, comment elle s'appelle? Comment elle s'appelle? Comment elle s'appelle? Okay. How do you spell that? Some people have really unique names, or in French, sometimes the spelling is a little wacky. So you want to ask sometimes, how do you spell that? So in French, this would be, comment ça s'écrit? Comment ça s'écrit? Comment ça s'écrit? Okay. Comment ça s'écrit? Comment ça s'écrit? How do you spell that? So I wanted to break this down a little bit. Comment means how. Ça is that. S'écrit is literal translation is spelling itself. Okay. Comment ça s'écrit? How does that spell itself? How does your name spell itself? Is basically the literal translation. And it's the same thing with also, I just wanted to go back a few slides. Comment tu t'appelles is the same concept. It's not really what is your name. The literal translation is actually how, comment, how do you call yourself is really what. How does he call himself? How does she call herself? Comment elle s'appelle? Comment il s'appelle? Right? We will learn about that later, but I just wanted to draw that to your attention. Okay. And we want to also express how awesome it is to meet them. You don't want to just walk away. Je m'appelle Nick. Comment ça va? Ça va. Bye. You want to say, nice to meet you. And in French, it is enchanté. Repeat after me. Enchanté. Enchanté. So this is like in English, delighted, like delighted to meet you. Now, if you are male, you would say, you would write it enchanté with um like this, like in the blue that you see here. If you are female, it would be like the pink that you see here. Now, is there a difference in pronunciation? Enchanté, enchanté. No. The only difference here is in the spelling. All right? Enchanté. And then we want to also learn how to say goodbye. Now, in French, it's au revoir. Au revoir. Again, au revoir. Au revoir. If you're in a situation where you're going to see someone in just a few minutes, you can also say this. À tout à l'heure. À tout à l'heure. À tout à l'heure. Now, I know that one's a little bit of a tough one, but this will definitely impress your French speaking friends. And again, like I said, this is used when you are seeing someone later in a few minutes, in an hour, in 2 hours, right? So instead of saying au revoir, you could say à tout à l'heure. But of course, au revoir could be used in many, many, many situations.